Hello, I'm Amanda Hocking, and I am here with my chinchilla Gruber for Writing on Wednesdays, which is my video where I give advice and I talk about books and what other stuff is going on with my life, whatever that may be. I posted a short video of Gruber a little while ago, and I got some questions about him, so I thought it'd be fun to incorporate him into the video because I know not a lot of people have had like a lot of experience with chinchillas. He's actually a little weirded out right now. I think it's because I'm wearing makeup, and I usually don't wear makeup when I handle him, because he's just like you can wear makeup and handle your chinchillas. I'm sure. I'm just a little overly cautious. It has like smells and chemicals in there, but so I don't usually wear it. So I think he's just being a little weird because why do I smell so weird? He usually, when I haven't taken him out of his cage and we're chilling together, this is probably like his favorite thing to do. He does a little bit of exploring, but he mostly just likes to sleep on my neck or on my shoulders. Sometimes he likes to kind of curl up around my chest, but not all the time. He's got his moods and stuff. Gruber is a 4-year-old domestic chinchilla, and if you're not familiar, chinchillas are small animals from the logomorph family, and they're sort of like they're more closely related to rabbits than they are to hamsters, but they're still sort of like in similar families and have similar things about them. Like their teeth, like hamsters and most rodents, their teeth never stop growing, and so they always have to have things to chew on. Yeah, so the chinchillas are originally from Chile in South America, and they lived in like the Andes Mountains, and the reason they made it over here is because they've got incredibly dense fur. I think humans have something like 15 to 20 hair per follicle, but for chinchillas it's like 100. I'm gonna double check I have the right number up here, so if I say something and it's different up here, go with that one. But
yeah, so I was wrong about everything. It's 1 hair per follicle for most mammals, and chinchillas have approximately 50 hairs per follicle. So it's still a lot more, but not what I was saying.
But chinchillas have quite a few more, like a lot more. And so their fur is just so dense and so plush. It really is like the softest fur. It's like rabbit fur is soft. I mean, I had Rex rabbits when I was younger, and not Rex. I had a rabbit, and it was really velvety and soft, and Gruber's fur feels pretty similar to that, but it's still very soft. Because of that, they can't get wet. If they get wet, they can get mold, and they can have a lot of issues in there. If the moisture gets down to the bottom, it doesn't dry because it's just so dense. I have no idea how wild chinchillas deal with moisture. I don't know if these are bred to be even more dense than wild chinchillas or what the deal is. Because I'm assuming they're exposed to moisture at some point, even if it doesn't rain a lot. I don't know, but hi. They're very social, and they live in large families, and they like to talk a lot, and they've got a lot of different sounds that they make and a lot of different communications to express their moods. Like Gruber has a very distinct chirp when I do something that he doesn't like. So they're very talkative. Gruber has had some aggression with male chinchillas, so that is why he is an only chinchilla. And I don't want females because I don't want babies. He was my first chinchilla. I'd always wanted one, but I was unsure about getting one because, they're kind of an exotic pet. And they're one of the least exotic of exotic pets, I would say, because they are relatively common and they are pretty easy to care for. What made Gruber a really good choice for me is he likes it cooler. They like to keep it below 70 degrees, like between 50 and 70 is like their ideal range. And I like to keep my house cool. He loves treats. He loves apple sticks and oats. Treats need to be given very sparingly to him. Chinchillas are prone to being obese, and domestic chinchillas, not wild chinchillas. And they're also prone to diabetes and stuff because it's so easy to give them too many sugary treats. Basically all their favorite foods have like too much sugar in them, and so you have to be really cautious about it. And I'm super careful about the kinds of foods that I give him and the things that I put in his cage. I've been really fortunate with him. Some chinchillas can be incredibly destructive, and you can't have anything that's not edible in their cage, like plastic and stuff like that. He has a plastic tray, and he doesn't chew on it or anything, so I don't have to have it covered. I mean, so far they can change at any time. That's true. I mean, he's relatively young. Chinchilla is in captivity. He could live anywhere between 10 and 15 years, maybe a little bit more than that. I think 10 is closer to the average, but considering he's just a happy little guy. I'm hoping he'll live a long time. Gruber has a big cage, and he's got a huge wheel in it. You need to get big wheels for him because it's better for their back. And he loves to run on it. He runs a lot. He likes to run around and do parkour. He jumps off of stuff. Like right now he's sitting with me, but because I'm sitting up too high in the chair. But when I'm on the floor, then he gets on the floor and he runs around and jumps around. The bathroom is one of his safe rooms to run around, because I can't have him running loose in the house with the animals that we have and the electronics. It's just too dangerous. So he has to have safe rooms, and I'll play with them inside of his cage, and he'll sometimes sit with me on the couch while I'm watching TV. But he has to be in the right mood for that. Like if he doesn't want to cuddle, like right now he's actually being super chill, but there's other times where he gets in a mood and he's like, no, I don't want to sit with you, you know? So I think, yeah, then he just goes into total parkour and jumps around and kind of has a good time. Another interesting fact about chinchillas is they have like their tails are the like strongest part of their body. If you have to handle a chinchilla that is like is upset or aggressive for some reason, like if they have an injury or they're loose or something, it's really, you grab them by the base of their tail, and it's like the strongest part of their body, and you'll have the least amount of chance for injury, because their bodies are super, like he's mostly fur. His bones are incredibly small and incredibly frail. I mean, you can just, he weighs like nothing. He seriously, like I can barely feel him here. Like he is so light. So, I mean, they're really super fragile. That's the biggest thing, is like he does these parkour and these jumps and stuff like that, but he's a super little guy. And so that's why I can't have him running around he would get hurt with the dogs or the cat. And I mean, none of my dogs, I feel like, would deliberately be aggressive with them, but they're all so big if they just step on them. Or even if I'm not paying attention and I just step on them. So, yeah. But so the bathroom is one of his safe rooms where I can have stuff picked up, and he just runs around and does parkour and plays with stuff. Sometimes I give him toilet paper rolls in here. There's like empty toilet paper rolls, and he likes to play with those and jump around with them. So, yeah, he likes toys. He likes chewing on stuff. The stuff he's supposed to, though. He's actually, like I said, he's like a really good job of not being destructive on things that he shouldn't be. So, because it can be tough, but you know, and that could change too. Like I said, he's still fairly young, so he's got a lot of life ahead of him to, you know, start destroying everything. So he's just chilling here, so I'm going to keep going with the video. I wasn't sure, like if I feel like he's getting anxious or he gets sick of me or anything, I'll take him back to his cage, so that might be a thing that happens. But right now he's fine, he's just chilling. So yeah, so what I wanted to talk about though for my writing advice to stay, it's actually like a little, taking a step back from stuff. There's been some controversy going on Twitter. There's basically always controversy going on Twitter. And so one of the takeaways that has come of it that has me thinking again about how readers need to learn how to respond to reviewers and what appropriate ways to interact with people who have read your book, whether there be it fans or critics or however you want to categorize it. Hi. Okay, go back. All right. And I think it could definitely be really easy to have a knee-jerk reaction, especially you work so hard on something that is so personal, and it's so hard to even though you know I am making this book to be commercially sold. That is my goal with it. That's why I'm writing it. And you have all these ideas in your head about that, but it's still so incredibly personal, and it's such a, you know, even though you have an editorial staff or editorial team, usually, and editors and copy editors and things like that usually going through it. And if you have with a publisher, you have even more people who go through your book. So it's not completely solo, but ultimately, unless you're co-writing a book with someone, it's a very solo activity. You singularly built this world, and now it's hard not to take it personally when someone's like, that world sucks. And sometimes you can, I mean, and it is okay, just to be clear, it is totally okay to be hurt by reviews. And some reviews are occasionally, well, some reviews can be, I would say, just unnecessarily mean. And I've said not about my books, but about anyone's books. You've read them where they're calling the author names and being like totally aggressively rude. I think, yeah, that's going to happen. And it is okay to be hurt by those ones. And it's okay to be hurt by ones that are even just like, I don't think this book was well written, and here's why. I mean, even if they can back it up or explain elements that they felt didn't work or why it didn't work, even if they're valid or invalid, it can still hurt, you know? You worked hard on this. So it's okay to be hurt, but the number one thing you really need to do is you need to grieve and rage about it in private. It can't be something... Did you just try and take my necklace? Yeah. It can't be something that you go online, and you definitely never interact negatively with a reader, a critic, or anything. Unless, I mean, even if someone is, for example, going way beyond just a critical review and they're like making death threats or something, I don't think you should engage with them then, but obviously you report people if they're being abusive. But if they're just saying, I didn't like this book, and here's why, you basically just have to accept that that's how they feel, because that's it. That's the bottom line, is that's how they feel, and people are entitled to how they feel. People, and that's also a thing too, is reviews say a lot about the thing they're reviewing, but they also say a lot about the reviewer. The viewer brings their own biases and baggage into it, and sometimes if their biases and baggage is really similar to yours, that can really strike a chord with them, and you can really make sense, and that's your reader, that the person who gets you, that's who you're writing for. But there's going to still be people who come in there and it just doesn't, they don't mesh. And it doesn't even matter if their points are valid or not, because just for some people, your thing isn't going to be for them, and they're going to explain why for people who also have similar feelings about things. And that's also okay. You just have to learn to accept it and not call them names or harass them. And most importantly, and this is, do not ever compare them to Nazis. I don't know why you would ever do that. Or someone reviewing a book, unless they're saying, I don't like this book because I subscribe to these Nazi principles, then that's it. You know what I mean? Like, anything outside of that, don't do it, you know? I mean, I feel very strongly about that one, because when you use the words incorrectly, they lose meaning. It's very important that we mean the words we say. And that's another thing that I really try to be a proponent of. If you are someone who wants to have a career in public life, especially, I mean, even if you don't, but in being a writer is, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what you think of it, a job where you do have to have a public life, as you can see me here in public talking about things. So because of that, everything you say online, you need to treat it as if the public will see it, even if it's just in an email or any kind of private correspondence can easily go public these days. And so I always caution you to be very careful. Things like ranting about book reviews and stuff are things that need to be done more in the privacy of your home and less in any kind of online space, even if it's a DM, because DMs come out a lot. And so that's something you have to consider is, and I'm not saying you're not allowed to have private thoughts or private correspondence, but you need to be very cautious about if you're doing it and what you're saying. And that if you're going to be attacking people, you need to make sure that you can back that up later on. That's another thing that I've really gotten into, and I've kind of talked about it a little bit online, is that I really feel like every word I put out there I have to be able to defend. So every choice I make, I have to be able to explain it, because if it turns out that if I say something, especially with language, when I'm like inventing languages or words, I always try to be very cautious and know exactly why I chose this word. Because if it turns out that the word has some negative meaning in another language or even in our own that I don't know about, I need to be able to defend why I chose that word. And so that's something when I'm building languages and worlds, why I know exactly why I name everything the way I do and why I do everything the way I do, so that I can explain why, if it's if people say it's objectionable. And sometimes people might be right. And then if they are, I'm going to make changes when I can and when I think it's appropriate to. I mean, because that's something that I've also talked about, is there's some sexism in the My Blood Approved series that I've gone back and forth about how to edit out. And it just felt too disingenuous to just change it. I mean, it is something that I struggle with, because now I've done virtual re-release where I knew I wanted to expand on the world, but when I saw some of the fat shaming and the sexism and some of the weird other stuff I got into, I really wanted to unpack that and remove that, and that's why I did the virtual re-release, because I couldn't stand by those choices. I had made choices ignorantly, and I think if I had thought about it then and questioned it then and thought about why am I making this choice, then I don't think I would have made the choices that I made, actually, because I had things like internal misogyny and internal fat shaming feelings because of how I feel about myself. And so it was hard for me to see because of the blind spot I have for me. But now when I'm looking at these things and saying you have to defend it, it's easier for me to point it out, because then I'm, like, if I decide to make a character fat, I would say, well, why is this character fat? And if it's because there's fat people in the world and I want to show them having full lives, then I'm going to make a more conscious effort of having that character be someone who just happens to be fat but also has a full life, as opposed to in the past where I would make a character fat because I wanted to compare the fat character to the thin character, so I could point out how thin my main character is compared to this other fat character, and so we can look down on this other fat character. And I wasn't thinking about it that way. Like, I wasn't. These weren't conscious thoughts. But if I was like, well, why do I make this character fat? Why does this? I would have to answer. I would have to think about it. But I didn't think about writing that way. And I think it's okay if you don't, or if you haven't gotten to that point, or if you never get to that point. But it is something where I really recommend it, especially in this day and age. People are going to question why you make the choices that you do, and it's important that you look inside and answer them. So if people ask you, you can say it, and it can be any number of reasons why. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just important that you know why. And if it is some kind of thing that you realize is a bias, or like for me, some internalized body hating, then that's something that I need to work on, because I don't want to be someone who feels that way about myself or other people, who thinks that they're less than just because their body isn't, an ideal quote unquote standard. And so that's something that like I've been working on, and that's made me, I think, happier. I think I'm also a better writer for doing this, and I think I'm a kinder person. And I know that I've talked about it a bit before too, that as a young adult author especially, it just is so important to me that I'm really thinking about how my words can affect the audience that's reading it. Because some of these people are very young teenagers, and so I want it to be that I'm not reinforcing things that are harmful that will make them hate themselves or make them hate other people. I want them to have things that help them, because they're still growing, they're still learning, and ultimately, we have to share the world with all these people. And I think that the world is better when we're kinder to ourselves and to each other. And that's kind of the place that I work from a lot. I think Gruber is getting sick of me talking. He's actually been, mostly chill, except for the couple times that I get going and he decides he wants to attack my necklace. Notice my neck is a little red here because I'm allergic to chinchillas. I'm allergic to everything with fur. And I have a ton of animals, and I always will. So, yeah, sometimes I'm a bit of a masochist. Just for general updates for me before I end the video, I just want to talk about that. I'm still working. Things are going well. I don't have any dates yet for things. They're just going forward. They're going well. I'm getting back into the habit of this, and I'm hoping, that this will be fun. If you have questions about writing or chinchillas or anything at all, really, feel free to ask, and I will try to answer them in my future videos, because like I said, I enjoy this. I enjoy this time where I get to talk to you guys, and yeah. So I just want to thank you all again for watching, and if you enjoy this video, please hit like and subscribe. Again, it helps YouTube things, which help me and help my books, honestly. So if you want to see more from me, that will help. But until next time, be safe, be kind, and happy reading.